Hey everyone, welcome back to the Florida Relocation Guide YouTube channel. My name is Adam Hancock, and today's video we have a cool format for you. I had a one-on-one conversation with a guest who has an unbelievably unique perspective of actually being born and raised in Lakewood Ranch, Florida, and that is very rare. So we spoke about the juxtaposition between my background and his, new construction and affordability, the evolution of East versus West, cool options that are emerging, and just how this landscape has completely changed in 2023. So I hope you enjoy this one, and let's get started. Hey everyone, we're back, and today we have a special one for you. I have Logan Clark here. I'm gonna let him introduce himself in a minute, but we're gonna walk through the idea, like the title suggests, affordability, but more, I wanna use this as kind of a smoke screen to talk about real macro geography of ultimate changes in the Sarasota-Manatee County area. I think this is just a good conduit to do that. So I'm gonna let Logan introduce who he is. I'm going to talk a little bit more of my background. That's really going to set a preface, the meaning of this video and this discussion particularly. So we'll get started.
Cool. Awesome. Well, first off, thanks for having me here, Adam. My name's Logan Clark. I'm a Lakewood Ranch native. I was born and raised here in the Lakewood Ranch, Bradenton, Sarasota area. I'm actually the youngest of 4 siblings. My parents also grew up here. So the change has been insane of what's been happening here in Manatee, Sarasota counties. And I'm just glad to be a part of the growth here. And why leave whenever everyone's coming here? So
yeah,
that's pretty much me. And
do you want to talk a little bit about like your current work and like a little bit of your history as far as?
I work for a builder, DR Horton. I've been in new home sales construction for the last 6 years myself. So I've been selling in the Parrish and Lakewood Ranch areas primarily, a little bit into Bradenton, so that's west of I-75. So I've been in new home sales, like I said, for 6 years, and just really kind of seeing where people come from, the dynamics of how COVID has changed everything, and really just the growth of everything of this area is unbelievable.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I thought, so a lot of people are familiar with me, but if you're not, and I want to speak more to like the differences between Logan and myself, and I thought this would be an interesting conversation, is one, the term Lakewood Ranch native. Lakewood Ranch was built in 1995, right? So that's not a common breed, but the experience someone would have an evolution. Just think if you were here 3 years ago, let alone you were, your late 20s and you were here your entire life, just think about how much you would understand deeply about the changes in Lakewood Ranch. I think that's a very, very unique background to speak on, especially if you have the right knowledge of new construction. So I'm a little older, I'm 36, and I grew up more of the Siesta Key area and lower Sarasota, Gulf Gate, Vamo. Like I grew up around that Palmer Ranch area. And, I've spoke a lot about like even the Founders Club and where Windward sits now in Waterside, that area that didn't exist. That was the boonies when I was growing up. Because think of no Lakewood. People thought of Lakewood like Parrish, farmland, it was. So it's very interesting with that kind of background. So we're going to kind of talk about the juxtaposition of all of that kind of stuff within just 3 or 4 major bullet points. So that's the idea here. So the first thing I wanted to hit on was, let's talk Parrish versus Lakewood Ranch, because that's just an interesting idea of a lot of value alterations. So my thought a lot is the idea of like, Lakewood Ranch is to the town, right? It is the one, but it was the evolution of it, let's say 3 years ago. You go northeast, you save a little bit of money. You get more house. It was the suburbs, right? It's perspective of money now, it's a little bit more bougie than it was, but it was 100% like you got further from town and you saved money, right? So that was the value prop of the entire thing. That's why people fought to stay in central Sarasota and all that kind of stuff, because they're like, I'm not going 15 miles from town, right? So when any town gets popular, then the part right near it also gets popular. And that's what we saw with Parrish, right? Parrish is a little bit further. It shoots west a little bit, but it's a little bit further east. You see sister communities entering into the area, and I think that creates an interesting comparison where Parrish made no sense if Lakewood didn't exist, but now as junior Lakewood with the Fort Hammer Bridge, I think it's an interesting discussion. So what are you seeing as far as that idea of like, you sold in Parrish, and now you're selling in Northeast Lakewood, which is really interesting, because I think that is the comparison. People are like, I'm already kind of here, should I go further? What are you seeing, the feedback people are giving you, why they would pick one or the other and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think a few reasons why is primarily, the cool thing about, like you use the word evolution of people moving here is school zone. So more families. A lot of times people move to Florida to retire, which is not the case anymore. There's businesses moving here, people being able to work from home, the quality of the life for their kids. So school zones is really a huge reason of why people do move to Lakewood Ranch. And like you say, Northeast Lakewood Ranch. And it is that Lakewood Ranch still? But so it is. It's really the zip code, the value proposition of being in Lakewood Ranch, the resale value, the rental value, what have you, whatever you want to do with your real estate. And like you said, Parrish being a little bit further north was a little bit more affordability. Parrish is a booming area, and yeah, I sold there for 5 years. So the last 5 years has been a crazy growth, with the whole North River Ranch and the resort stuff. People kind of compare that to Lakewood Ranch. You're still going to you're closer to St. Pete, you're closer to Tampa, but you're a little further away from Sarasota. So it's kind of, where do you want to be? Some people are moving to Parrish for a little bit more of a family and resort lifestyle, but work in St. Pete and Tampa, so the commute is quicker. Some people don't want to be in Parrish because they want to be in Lakewood Ranch or Bradenton because it's closer to Sarasota. So I think really proximity to where you want to entertain and where you want to live your life in terms of beaches or downtown areas would be another point.
Do you see yeah, that's a good point in the schools, because that is a big variance. Just like Waterside, Sarasota schools, this hits Parrish, very different world. It's going to evolve, but it's a different world. Are you seeing there being a viable chance for a lot of builders now to say, sister community of like, can I replicate Lakewood Ranch in Parrish and gain just like a pure price advantage? And then on top of that, I sneakily get closer to Tampa, get closer to St. Pete. People don't realize that Parrish is about the same distance because it hooks west to Anna Maria and Lido as North Lakewood. All Lakewood's not the same. Are you seeing it being like just pure cost to even start them entertaining the conversation? And are you seeing like the builders have enough presence now where it is an actual viable apples for apples shopping experience? Or are you seeing like it needing a little bit more time to have enough options?
Yeah, I really see that Lakewood Ranch is one of a kind, right? People move to Lakewood Ranch because it's Lakewood Ranch. So it's a brand, it's a township. Parrish is just an area. So I think people are attracted to the waterside, family-oriented, like ranch night on Wednesday night at 6 to 9, which is awesome. People have a sense of family gathering or friend gathering at a larger scale. So I think Parrish, it brings a great value, but it's not Lakewood Ranch, because Lakewood Ranch is Lakewood Ranch, know? And like we were talking earlier, I grew up in Lakewood Ranch, born and raised. I actually moved out of Lakewood Ranch for a year, and I'm like, I'm going back.
Yeah.
It's the little things. It's the landscaping, how it's maintained. It's the quality of the commercial plazas, going to Publix to get your groceries, how nice the buildings are. It's just the things that you take advantage or take for granted of, I should say, that when you don't live in Lakewood Ranch, what you miss.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. So perfect bridge now. So what I want to do is I want to take, now that you got your mind around that, if you're tracking with us, I want to take one step more micro and say, okay, say it's just Lakewood. Now, Lakewood is, like you said, that it is a full-on city, right? You can write Lakewood or Bradenton on your address. It's not 10 communities, it's 30 plus, and full sections of town is in grids. So can you talk a little bit about like your thoughts, and I'll give some of mine about like if you chose Lakewood, now you have parts that are 18 minutes one way from each other, and you can speak specifically to Star Farms and Solera and DR Horton's brand as it relates to north of 70 and all that. Can you talk a little bit about like how you view people shopping the quadrants of Lakewood, and like where their sensitivities are, what's too far north? Are they catering towards schools? Are you seeing, like, what are you seeing in all that?
Right. So like this south area of Sarasota, which is now a part of Lakewood Ranch, that's not the Lakewood Ranch school zones yet. It's evolving, but it's just not there yet. So if you have kids that need to go to school now, that might pull you away from that south side of Sarasota. Where I sell in Star Farms, you're going to be kind of in the northern region of Sarasota. I'm northeast Lakewood Ranch, but that still falls into the desired school zone and location of what people are attracted to for their lifestyle, their families. So I think that's really a big difference of the driving factor of what part of Lakewood Ranch that you want to live in. The other thing is amenities of that specific community. Do you want golf? Do you not want golf? Do you want the resort style amenities without the golf because you're not a golfer and you don't want those fees? So the cool thing about Lakewood Ranch is you can pick your lifestyle. The awesome thing about where I sell is Star Farms is you get the full lifestyle of, poolside bar and grill, all those one-on-one fitness instructor, but no golf. So that way your fees are cut down.
Yeah.
So your cost of living, you can spend your money now on a vacation as opposed to a golf fee.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting because I've taught, like, when we met 2 years ago or whatever it was, at that time, even that time, you said the same quadrants, but the benefit of having, like, it feels like Pleasantville, and you can say it's, you know, there's too many communities, whatever it may be, but the benefit of having that many communities, you could go to these quadrants now, and I think you could say, okay, this is my criteria, these are my sensitivities of schools, this is the style I like, this is the geography I like, and you can maybe have a viable 2 to 3 actual communities to pick from, because they do divide, right? The golf, size, the model homes or whatever, where 2 years ago, even when you got to a certain grid, like when north of 70, you had Sapphire Point, you had Solera, you had Esplanade, Azaria, and Savannah. They're so different from each other that it was hard, where people felt like, I needed this location because of price, and this one doesn't work, no plan B. Now I feel like it's more interesting. Same with Waterside, right? So I think this would be a good time to maybe talk about Star Farms specifically. If people haven't been really familiar about it, I think it's really interesting on the DR Horton side, especially what it is to that particular region. Like, it's very interesting when you get that high. I think it makes a lot of sense. Maybe even more sense when you get that high. Can you speak about, like, if people are completely unfamiliar, like, what is it? Like, as far as, like, your different collections, the business model of DR Horton, can you talk a little bit about, like, broad price for size, and, like, just give people an idea of if they love those schools and they can't do custom, Esplanade Azario's overkill because they have kids, they don't like Park East. What is DR Horton?
what is DR Horton and what is Star Farms? So DR Horton, we're the largest builder in the country. And that's based on volume in terms of closings per year. So what we have at Star Farms is probably one of the most unique communities in Lakewood Ranch, in my opinion. And here's why. It's because you have everything in one community. You've got townhomes, you have paired villas, you have single family homes, anywhere from 1,500 to 4,000 square feet. I mean, that's all sizes of families. At the same token, we have what we call our Freedom Home Collection. That's our age targeted section. So if you're looking for like that 55 and up demographic, there's that part of the community for you. 4 pools, 4 clubhouses. I break it down to, we have everything but golf, right? So that's going to save you on your fees. It's a resort style everything. Like I said, one-on-one fitness instructor is an option to you. We have the poolside bar and grill. So if you want to have a cocktail and lunch by the pool, it's there. I mean, we're even going to have an elementary and middle school built within the corridors of Star Farms. So if you have kids that you're moving to Florida and you want a lifestyle for your kids and they want to be able to walk home from school, that's there. That's an option. So Star Farms is very unique, and it's going to be an awesome community. It's 1,500 homes, and we sold about 200 so far. So we're just hitting the ground running.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting part about, like, so I have a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old. So it seems like, these 2025, 2026 schools being built is a long-term thing. And I think a high school is going where Greenbrook is. That might even give you a different option than Lakewood High. But, if you have an infant, like, that gives you the whole bandwidth before even the kindergarten starts. But also, like, if you've been shopping, like, maturity-wise, and you were familiar with, like, the Indigo Mallory Park world of, like, the Golet Nolan middle, where the back end of Mallory, you could walk from trails. People got romantic about it. It felt like how you'd view Lakewood family-friendly in person. And that's an interesting point. Well, how are people viewing, are DR Horton buyers excited about the Arthur Ruttenberg and John Cannon custom guys being alongside them for value?
I think that out. So yeah, there's 89 lots within the center of Star Farms. So the value proposition to everybody that isn't spending $1.4 to $4 million is you have custom homes in your community that are using the same amenities that you are using. They're a part of Star Farms just as much as anybody else. So the homes are beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, and the value, and them building $3 million and you building DR Horton definitely doesn't hurt your value prop.
And what we have as DR Horton, we have 8 collections of homes. So there's a term for each category. So we have anywhere from our Express, which are our starting finished products, to what we call our Emerald series. It's going to get you a little bit more of the higher end finishes, like 8-foot doors, a soft close cabinets, things like that.
They built those at just kind of aisles, right? Emerald?
Yeah. So when I say we have something for everybody, we genuinely do.
Yeah, like as an actual business model.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to talk about, on the same line of sticking with the affordability of what else you could do, we were talking off book a couple other things Sarasota and North are doing, and then I want to circle back and just kind of straight no chaser, deposits, build schedule of like whatever you can say there, compliance-wise. So, all right, Third bullet, other interesting bonus round items. Thoughts on, you grew up in Lakewood, and thoughts on what's happening of the wraparound of Lakeland or a Lakewood Ranch continuing to push out past Lorraine, continuing to go towards Sky Ranch and Grand Park and Central Sarasota. What do you think like 10 years from now, there's going to be that's fully going to connect in that way where like behind Sky Ranch and Grand Park and Artistry, Lakewood's going to kind of connect to this Eastern Sarasota?
I really do, because it was almost like, because I grew up in Greenbrook, right? So that was like East Lakewood Ranch.
That was the only thing?
That's in the center of Lakewood Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Lakewood Ranch Boulevard is the heart of Lakewood Ranch, from the north end to the south end. And like where that brand new LA Fitness Plaza is with the Panera and the Starbucks, that was a farmland right now.
Yeah.
I drove by and I didn't even realize what it was going to be. So my point to that is the evolution and growth of Lakewood Ranch from how far east was of Lakewood Ranch Boulevard. I think past, once you get past Bourneside, and going east, how far east, I have no idea, but I do think that on the commercial side, the residential side, it'll continue to grow east.
Yeah, because it is like, that's why I kind of saw where Waterside was going to go, because it's grids, right? Interstate is the same as Lakewood Ranch Boulevard, is the same as Lorraine, and Fruitville is the same as University, and 70 and 64, and they can keep doing that, because the cool thing about being east of Sarasota, unlike being east of Naples potentially, is one, it's very close to town, because you go lower, you get closer to the water, not further, because Florida curves, and there's a lot of land to build, and one or two families own all of it. So the other thing I think is interesting on using kind of DR Horton again would be even taking the Parrish thing on steroids and going north of that, almost jumping Palmetto, Ellington, and southeast Tampa, which I know is a different division than you. But I think one of the other cool things right now is the idea of what Parrish was to Sarasota. Wamama, Ruskin, Sun City Center is to Tampa. And it gives you the same thing where like there's a girl that works at Libby's off of Lorraine in Lakewood Ranch and lives in Wamama. Because if Parrish is too expensive, Wamama is like Parrish Junior, so it keeps the same evolution. So I think, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I think it's another interesting gap.
Yeah, just like you were talking about Parrish. But yeah, I agree with you. How Parrish people may work in Tampa or St. Pete, and it's cheaper to live in Parrish.
Yeah.
Even maybe Lakewood Ranch is cheaper than Tampa. Tampa's booming.
Yeah.
So with the family lifestyle that you can put in Lakewood Ranch and work in Tampa or St. Pete, that's huge.
Yeah, airports too. Yeah, the one thing I think is interesting, if you're like trying to learn and like if this is too much of a stream of consciousness, and you just simply took DR Horton as a brand, and take DR Horton as a brand and follow all their communities in Southwest Florida and see how they price their own communities against themselves. Because age might matter, amenities might matter, but a lot of their own price points is their value proposition of how an area sits in the landscape of demand and cost. And that's a great way to learn. Because you can say if I bought the same house in 5 locations, then you can quickly get a sense of someone else's negative might be a leverage point for you, because you might not care about the beach, you might not have kids in school, you might want to be in between Tampa, and everybody's like, that's too far. It's not too far from you if you're not commuting to where they're commuting. So, all right, we will digress. And I want to give you a chance to kind of, anything interesting going on with your world at DR Horton, but like, can you tell people a little bit? I think I overassume a lot that people understand, one, just everyone understands exactly how new construction works liquidity-wise and timeline-wise, but also how they work versus each other. Your value proposition is very different as far as model from a lot, Taylor Morrison and Neil and stuff as far as structure. Can you explain, like, if someone wanted to engage with you, what does that actually look like?
So I explain the process this way. What DR Horton does is we're a speculation builder. So we predetermine everything. That's currently our business model. COVID has changed that. So right now our main business model is we're picking everything, color choices, lot location, floor plan, and we're getting the home started. But what that's going to offer you as a customer is a home at a better timeline and a better price. Star Farms in particular, we're one of the best priced communities in Lakewood Ranch. So that's our business model. There's other companies that do it different. You sit down with a salesperson, you have a base price, then you have a lot premium, then you have your structural options, then you have your design options. More of a shopping cart is what I explain it. And your price is up to you as the customer. Our price is an all-in. You know, we include the lot premium, we include everything. Everything is included. But back to the options builder, you can have 2 homes next door that are the same exact floor plan. One could be 30,000, 50,000 higher, just based on what one or the other person selected at the design or structurally. Leaving pools out of the conversation.
Yeah, so get the appraisals get weird.
Exactly, exactly. In terms of deposits and how to proceed, it's fairly simple. I tell people this is easier than buying a car. You know, you talk to financing if you do want to finance, but our current structure is if you're financing, there's other, ways to work this out, but our standard structure would be 10% deposit at time of contract, whether the home is ready now or whether it's a 9 or 10 or 11 month build. You put your deposit down, hold that, and then whatever your desired down payment, that would be at the closing or completion of construction of the home. So I know it's different than the resale world of, buying an existing home because it's already there. So yeah, that is a good question because people don't know what the process is like of putting money down and waiting for the home to be developed.
Yeah, I always thought it was interesting because if you have, and 10% is a hell of a lot better than 20%, especially on your principals, because that's a lot of money to float. And the deposit doesn't relate to the financing. It can be contributed towards it, but it stands alone. I always thought liquidity management was really interesting because people come and they're like, I'm 14 months away. I don't want to waste your time. We're like, well, one, it's aggressive to say a home would be finished in 12 months in the current market. But also, like, if you have 10%, none of that hits your debt to income ratio. It is a point in time. You can fully manage a transition from out of state, which 100% of our people are pretty much. Very controlled, much more than trying to fly and buy resales. So I think yours offers a lot of incentives to it not being a heavy monetary burden of carry for people. Other kind of random particulars, a lot of people have been talking about the 2-story block.
Yes.
Very rare. And that's 100% of yours?
That's all of even.
So storms, second story is block.
There's 2 things that people come here and they're worried about: alligators and hurricanes. So you're really going to get a better sound home or efficient home with block on block construction. So your 2-story, especially townhomes, I think that's huge. I have a townhome myself. We're really the only building. Yeah. But the second story not having wood, with the sound transfer between the walls having block.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's something that you don't think about unless you experience it. And I've experienced that.
One bad neighbor. Yeah. All right. Last question. Rental restrictions in Star Farms for you guys, is it vary by the house or do you...
For the most part, it's 7-month minimum.
Okay.
We just don't want to have Airbnb and things like that. That's just not our business model. We want more longevity with our buyers.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Logan, for coming on. I hope that was useful to you guys. We can get you patched in with anything with D.R. Horton you'd like, and even in conversation with Logan, if you just want to kind of learn more about the area, let us know. And we'll see you on the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, bro. Hey, everyone, that is a wrap for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing and liking. Any real estate assistance in Florida, reach out. All of our contact information is here. And finally, the sunshinestateco.com, our website, the URL will be right here. Free resources, guides, newsletters, stuff that you will not find on YouTube. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you on the next one.